This is 𝗕𝗂𝗶𝗁𝗃 from Trady University, and today I want to talk about a Puritan minister attacking Bitcoin. Everyone's favorite American Puritan minister and schoolmarm from Boston went on a rampage earlier this week. That's actually not a picture of her. That's a picture of her. She does really remind me of an old, strict Puritan minister. And she went on an attack, not just on Bitcoin, but also in the process, attacking the U.S. Constitution and also attacking basic human rights. And it really makes you wonder what they're putting in Boston or Cambridge's water these days. And this is the same politician who actually did a fairly decent job earlier in her career going after the big banks, criticizing them for the great financial crisis and criticizing the Fed's bailouts. This is someone who used to hold Wall Street accountable, but now flies around on a private jet and pretends to hide when everyone sees her on that jet. Now, in fairness, this actually is what we're going to be talking about, which is a bill in the Senate. It's a bipartisan bill that was co-written by a Republican, Roger Marshall from Kansas. Needless to say, if you're a Bitcoiner, hopefully you have not voted for either Elizabeth Warren or Roger Marshall, and you should, if you are a Bitcoiner and you've voted for them in the past, you should definitely voice your displeasure with them. So Roger Marshall from Kansas, another empty suit with a fake smile, and I'm going to warn you, please don't leave your children alone with this man. I just don't really trust him. So this is the bill we're talking about. It's called the Digital Asset Anti-Money Laundering Act of 2022. And this bill would require the following groups to register as financial institutions: Bitcoin Core software devs, anyone who runs a Bitcoin full node, anyone who runs a Bitcoin miner, anyone who designs a software wallet or other software that interfaces with Bitcoin, anyone who designs a hardware wallet. And then in addition to this registration, they would be required to identify and save the personal information of every person who uses a software or sends a Bitcoin transaction that touches their computers. And if you run a node like I do, and I know many of you do, you know how ridiculous this is because you don't really know where that data is coming from or going that comes across your computer. So let's take a look at one thing that would be illegal to do without a financial institution license under this bill. But before I show you that, I would just ask you to hit that subscribe and like button if you're enjoying this video so far. Here's the first thing that would be illegal to do. This is obviously a 12-word recovery seed or a backup of Bitcoin. This is the famous one that people always use, and it does not currently secure any Bitcoin, I would imagine. Bacon said 12 times. And what this is this would actually qualify as an unhosted, unregistered software wallet under her bill, under Elizabeth Warren's bill. So that would be illegal. Here's something else that would be illegal to do without a financial institution license. This is a 𝗕𝗶𝘁𝗶𝗺 hash calculator. You put in an input, you get an output. This is what the Bitcoin miners or hashers are doing all day. So what I've done for my input, I've written Elizabeth Warren is a lawyer, politician, and complete waste of space. But wait, I'm repeating myself. I'm going to hash that now. I just calculate this 𝗕𝗶𝘁𝗶𝗁 hash. This would be illegal to do in the US without having a financial license if this bill becomes law. Needless to say, this bill is a complete abomination. It's also unconstitutional and will be largely overturned by the US courts if it ever becomes law. In the US, a lot of people don't realize this, but software is protected as free speech under the First Amendment. People who run Bitcoin full nodes, in addition, are obviously not money transmitters in the traditional sense. The reason to have money transmitters register is so that if you send some money through them and they steal it or the money gets lost, then you have someone to go after. But Bitcoin full nodes are very different. Bitcoin miners are very different. If your node or miner crashes or goes offline, no one loses any money because this is a very robust network, the Bitcoin network. This bill also violates the Fourth Amendment by imposing warrantless surveillance on Bitcoin users. So it's bad from many, many different angles. And I think it's especially ironic if we remember the context of this bill. So what's the context? A huge offshore crypto casino, FTX, that funneled huge sums of money to both Democrats and Republicans. This crypto casino blows up, and everyone who's not taken self-custody of their Bitcoin loses it. Here's a side note. Good job, shitcoiners. Thanks a lot for Celsius, BlockFi, Terra Luna, FTX, you idiots and scammers. You created another giant mess that your older, smarter, and more responsible brother Bitcoin now has to help clean up. So this is the problem with these shitcoiners, these altcoiners, these scammers, and this is why I try to call them out on this channel, because they cause unnecessary legislation as part of the blowback. So what happens? FTX blows up. What does Elizabeth Warren go and do? She puts forward a bill that criminalizes any American who wants to take self-custody of their Bitcoin. And if this bill becomes law, it will make private ownership of Bitcoin illegal and impractical in America. Bitcoiners will be forced to trust Coinbase and other exchanges with their Bitcoin. Obviously, if this becomes law, I will continue to run a full node. I will continue to use software wallets, and I will practice civil disobedience, because this is not something you can ask people to do. If people are forced to trust exchanges like Coinbase or FTX, this will mean many, many more innocent victims if one of these exchanges collapses. So this is the irony of her bill. It actually makes things less safe for investors and consumers. Warren's actions demonstrate that she is now probably being funded by big banks and other financial services companies that are seeking to control and capture or displace Bitcoin. And as I said, this is pretty ironic, since she started her political career with lots of good criticism of too big to fail U.S. banks. Obviously, does this law apply also to other crypto? Of course it does, but most crypto is already state captured, so who really cares? We can see here that Ethereum, in the last hour, 70% of the blocks were actively exercising U.S. Treasury OFAC censorship. So these are compromised chains. What Warren is really going after is Bitcoin, because Bitcoin has robustness, and Bitcoin is the real enemy from her perspective. This bill obviously needs to be opposed not just as an attack on Bitcoin, but also as an attack on technological progress. What we're talking about is basically sending cash over the internet. That is what Bitcoin does in a really nice, beautiful, safe way. We still have the right to cash in the US. I'm able to use dollar bills without anyone tracking it. And I think we need to have the same protections applied to digital cash. So this bill is an attack on technological progress. It's an attack on the constitutional rights of all Americans. It's also an attack on just basic universal human rights like privacy, private property, self-autonomy. And I would ask Elizabeth Warren and the senator from Kansas, do we want to live in a surveillance state like Russia or China or North Korea? Is this really what the founding fathers wanted? Is this what most Americans want? Obviously not. Elizabeth Warren's values are surprisingly illiberal and authoritarian and fascist. And again, that's another irony. This bill, as we said, does nothing to stop the next FTX. And in fact, it ensures that even more people will lose money with the next FTX, and self-custody will be illegal. This bill and everything in it needs to be opposed from both sides of the aisle. If you're an American, you can do your part. You can go to this website, you can type in your address, and it will tell you your representatives and your senators if you don't already know them, or you can also just search through the list of senators for each state here if you want to share your address with congress.gov. The other thing to consider at this time of year, if you're feeling in a charitable mood, the Bitcoin Policy Institute is doing really good work. We also have CoinSetter, but they help out the ship coins, and it's a little bit, their work can sometimes be good, other times is a bit ambiguous. And so if you want to donate to a think tank and institute and lobbying group, I think the Bitcoin Policy Institute is a good place to start. I'll link to this in the description notes below so you can check it out. If you found this video helpful, be sure to hit that subscribe and like buttons. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I publish my next video. And let me know your questions and comments in the comment section below. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.